Ethan Hawke was always an impulsive sergeant. He had been in military service for more than a decade and passed through some of the most dangerous jungles and deserts. He was a renowned soldier, known for his bravery and speed of action. But it was a special mission that brought him to the very center of the Amazon rainforest for which he was never prepared. His team was tasked with the conservation of endangered species and natural resources by securing a classified outpost close to the border of a notorious region for wildlife trafficking. This was dangerous, but an essential operation. 1 week into the Amazon, the humidity and the thick bush that was so entangled had already started to have a negative effect on them. Each day, they had to face dangerous insects, marshes that could be hidden beneath their feet, and the strange noises of animals that seemed to accompany them grazingly close through the underbrush. But out here, removed from the rest of the world, Ethan felt a strange sense of tranquility. The beauty of the wilderness can be a truly humbling thing. Ethan patrolled the river on the night that was to change his life forever, his eyes roving across the shores for any sign of illegal activities. A flash of movement along the riverside caught his practiced eye. His mind went immediately to capybara or a monkey until he saw the unmistakable, sleek form of a jaguar, black and gold rosettes glinting in its coat. Fascinated by this rare sight of this beautiful animal, Ethan stood stock still. Rarely did anyone ever spot a jaguar in the wild, since they were so extremely elusive animals. However, upon closer inspection, he thought his excitement soon turned to concern as the animal was limping and his back limb was dragging a bit behind him. With alert eyes and pricked ears, the jaguar slowly made its way near the edge of the river. It fell into the water with a loud splash, losing its balance while leaning forward to drink. The jaguar's motions betrayed panic, furiously flailing about. As he watched it fight against the current, getting drawn more and farther from the coast by the powerful river, Ethan's heart went on a racing spree. His training told him to stand back and let nature take its course. He was here on a mission, after all, not some rescue mission. Yet for reasons he couldn't explain, he couldn't turn away. He dropped his equipment and plunged in without a second thought, running toward the water as the jaguar's head disappeared under the surface. The currents tugged at him as he strove to stay afloat, and the river was colder and swifter than he had anticipated. Ethan swam as hard as possible, his eyes on the black silhouette of the jaguar that again was there, but clearly tired and straining. When finally Ethan reached the animal, he instinctively covered his face from its powerful jaws by throwing one arm across its torso. For one instant, he even thought that it was attacking him in its panic, but he could feel its chest rise and fall while the creature gasped for breath. Amazingly, though, the jaguar seemed to calm down, almost as if the animal realized his presence and his aid. They fought together against the tide until they could make their way to the coast. His muscles screamed for mercy under the strain of the eternal voyage until at last they made it to the riverbed. Ethan heaved himself to gather his breath and fell beside the jaguar after he finally had it out of the water. The jaguar lay, its chest rising and falling with weak breaths. They slept for a very long time, man and predator, knackered yet alive. It wasn't until Ethan finally sat up that he noticed an awkwardly angled back limb on the animal, a screaming indicator of damage. Leaving the jaguar here would be a death sentence, as it would not last long in the wild like this. Whispers in the amber gaze of the jaguar. He said, "I guess we are both locked here now." The animal kept a close eye on him, serene and therefore seemingly sympathetic. He knew right then that he would risk his purpose for helping this animal any way he could. Over the next several days, Ethan tended the jaguar in a makeshift enclosure near their base camp. He knew his higher-ups would never understand, so he kept his activities secret. He sat beside the big cat often, mending its wound and speaking softly. He named the jaguar Kai after the river spirit of the stories his grandmother used to tell him when he was younger. First, Kai was wary. Anytime Ethan would approach him, he growled softly, but in time, the animal began to trust him. Ethan was amazed at the power and strength that the jaguar possessed. The depth of intelligence that shone in his amber eyes enticed and unsettled Kai, like the animal had read his mind. One afternoon, as it sat beside Kai, the big cat nuzzled its nose against Ethan's shoulder in a soft display of favor and faith. There was something wordless between them, something which left him speechless. In that moment, something peculiar and beautiful did pass between them. Ethan and Kai were kindred spirits, put together by some higher power. Yet Ethan knew this companionship would soon be taken from him as Kai regained his strength. The big cat was a wild animal. He could not remain here with him forever. He belonged deep in the jungle, and he had just barely saved Kai's life. And yet, when Ethan was literally about to set Kai free into the woods, the unthinkable happened. One morning, Ethan stood on patrol when he heard shots know, a volley of shots firing through the trees. Running back to camp, his heart sank and an awful sense of dread overcame him. He arrived to find Kai was caged and being dragged by a number of armed poachers. The poachers all smiled as they attached the cage to the back of their truck despite the fact that this big jaguar was thrashing and snarling. Ethan's anger boiled and his hands clenched. The comparison sight of Kai the animal he had put his life in danger to save now degraded in this manner was just too much for him to handle, for he had been brought up in the most remarkable respect for nature. Ethan took a step forward, voice harsh but calm, disregarding danger. "Give the jaguar away," he insisted. The poachers gave him a funny look. They ridiculed one of them, a tall man who had an interpolation scar over his cheek. "Soldier, this is a rare catch. For this one, we're getting paid a lot of money. Why don't you take care of your own affairs?" Ethan took another step forward as his jaw tightened while his palm rested on his firearm. "You're not getting it. I have got this jaguar covered. Let go, or I will make you." The poachers eyed one another, sizing him up, but they could also see in his eyes that unyielding will from a soldier who has faced much worse than they had. Muttering under their breath, the poachers reluctantly released Kai from his cage. Putting his hand on the jaguar's head, Ethan knelt beside him. "Kai," he muttered, "get back in your place." Kai hesitated a moment, his eyes cast over his shoulder in almost human-like regard. With one final glance, the jaguar turned and disappeared in the trees, leaving Ethan and the poachers to themselves. His gaze was glacial as he swung to face them. "I will not be as merciful if I ever see you here again." When the scuffle with the poachers had finally ended, Ethan's superiors were informed of his behavior. Because of his careless behavior, he was reprimanded and his mission compromised. Ethan did not feel any regret. To him, the only thing that mattered was that he was able to keep Kai safe. It wasn't long, a couple of weeks later, that Ethan's mission in the Amazon came to an end. His life resumed its regular routine once he went back to base. He could not forget Kai, though. As a reminder of the unadulterated, wild beauty of the forest, the jaguar had permanently changed him. One evening, while sitting alone, he received an unexpected message. It came from a nearby wildlife reserve that was aware of his behavior. They gave him a job that would help combat illegal wildlife trafficking and protect endangered animals. An opportunity to actually make a difference and protect creatures such as Kai against the cruelties of poaching. This was, in fact, where he really belonged, so Ethan didn't hesitate to accept it. As the years went by, Ethan became famous in the conservation circle, his work saving the lives of countless animals. In an arena other than the battlefield, he had found a mission, a calling. Kai was never forgotten the jaguar that changed his life. Then one fateful day, while on patrol close to the reserve, he spotted a familiar outline moving through the trees. He made out the sleek, muscular form of a jaguar, and his heart leaped. It was Kai, his movements sinuous and graceful, his coat shining in the dappled light. The instant their eyes met, Ethan felt a surge of joy and gratitude. Kai had lived as he was meant to, surviving and thriving in the wild. As if to say one final thank you to Ethan, he had miraculously come back to him. Closure washed over Ethan as he watched Kai disappear into the bush. He knew for sure his journey finally had come full circle and that at last he had made a change, saved himself by saving Kai, found a mission to guide him through the rest of his life. It silently followed him back to the reserve, while the ghost of the forest stood as a sad witness to the bond between a soldier and a jaguar that would live forever. Now tell me, do you like this story? Share anything in the comment below and make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Help us to continue providing you with interesting stories. I hope to see you in the next interesting video. Thank you for watching.